Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Hello out there, and welcome back to the Beggar's Tomb. This is a whole new season and getting on to bigger things. I can't really jump into like what we're going to get into right away because it's going to take some time to really unfold all this. But we're picking back up with Neal Cassady. We're skipped the second third of the 3/3. Assumedly, when Neal wrote his autobiography, the first third, is basically covered about 13 years of his life, and I believe he lived to 42. I have to double check my math on that, but the assumption was it was about a third of his life. So he didn't call it the first third because he didn't know it was done till it was, everybody else knew it was done because he was dead. But I guess there could be a fourth third, because they could have been wrong. It could be like, it's afterlife or something comes out later after you've already got. This is the third, and it's part one of the third because it only covers a certain amount of stuff. Now with Neal, I had all this stuff. Like I was planning on getting to all the parts of his life and everything, and see if we can pull some pictures up here. Try to pull a picture of Ken Kesey up here. See on my yeah, there, that's visible. So this has got Ken in here too, because the thing is with what's going on here in this third, that was the part of Neal's life where it was after his divorce and everything from his wife, and separation from his family, and it was kind of a big point in his life, but it wasn't, to him, it wasn't like what he had planned for his life to be. And, you think of a guy who got to be pretty, darn right famous. Lots of people know about him all over the world, but he didn't get to he wasn't like a success in a lot of ways. But Ken was, because Ken had, when One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest came out, first of all, Ken Kesey, he graduated from Stanford University and with honors, and he was considered a promising prospect, both academically and as a writer. So, and then when his novel came out, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I believe it won a Pulitzer Prize. I'm going to look that up. But, yeah, I believe it won a Pulitzer Prize. We'll look that up here, though. I was trying to do other things here, too, trying to pull other accounts in and go live on more than one account, but surprise, you can't do that, which, it makes sense that you can't. But I was trying to see, I kind of feel that where I'm, based on, I like what Luis Gomez says, probably true. He said he's not shadow banned, he's just ugly. I could definitely go for me. But, I was trying to figure out like why some videos hit and some don't, and I found that like the ones I'm not in seem to do better. So I was trying to like be in it without being in it type deal. And well, I'm not trying to be totally dishonest. I was, just gonna be like joking about it kind of, but anyhow, you can't do that. You can't do what I was trying to do. Or at least I didn't figure it out. I know who would know how to do what you can do. Is Sam Roberts. And you really get respect for what somebody accomplishes when you try and do something similar. And because he does he does an amazing professional looking podcast out of his basement, and that's on top of working like a serious radio. That's funny. I used the word serious, but he on Sirius radio channel and he does a serious radio programming, and it's an established internationally broadcast radio program. And in addition to that, he does his podcast out of his basement, which doesn't get near the numbers it should, considering how good it looks. And it's, I guess if I compared what I'm doing to what he's doing, then I should expect to be getting like 1 view or no views. I see I lost my viewer. Oh, darn it. I figured maybe just the weirdness, if nothing else, would keep people a little longer, but I am ugly. So let's see. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest here. Did it win a Pulitzer Prize? Doesn't matter, but it won something. I know it did. Okay, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I think it might have won Film of the Year, which, you know, he didn't make the film. Oh, yeah, won 5 Academy Awards. Did the book win anything? I guess not. I guess the book didn't win an award, but Ken worked directly with the movie crew when they made it into a movie. In fact, see, he was working as I believe, a custodian at a mental hospital when he wrote the book, and so he knew what he was talking about. Really helps with your writing if you were. And they filmed it in the same mental institute that he was working at. So it definitely was the type of way you want a movie to be made. When you want it to be the author's vision too, and being in the same exact location, that definitely helped. So anyhow, Ken Kesey was a success. Well, it just so happened that now the main character, if you're not familiar with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, you probably should be. Like if you're into the Beggar's Tomb at all, which you're probably not, but in case somebody somewhere down the line actually is into this stuff, then they caught on to something that could find. They don't know how far ahead I am of this crap, because you will know that Randall Patrick McMurphy, that's RPM, it's a measurement of speed, and that's what Ken Kesey, or that's what Neal Cassady was considered the fastest man alive. He had the nickname, and Speed Limit was another one of his nicknames, and and part of the reason why he's not somebody who a lot of people, some people in power would want somebody to be talking about a lot, is because he did use speed, and and I can see why. With so many people's lives torn apart with stuff, you don't want to glorify that type of behavior. But what we are going to get to in this video is why it's necessary to tell about Neal Cassady, because he did accomplish some things that people didn't realize he was accomplishing. I believe that it's a truth to say that if you're anyone who is at the head of their field, the very, very forefront of their field, in some sort of scientific endeavor, is considered a mad scientist. Because if you're actually up ahead, there's no peers. You aren't being judged by people who know what you're talking about fully, so you're going to seem a little bit off your rocker. Well, that's the way Neal seemed to a lot of people. Now, what we're going to examine, I'm going to let you examine evidence that's had a lot of time to accumulate years now, and in those years, some things have become clear that were not clear back then. Who was hip to it was Ken Kesey, because he's working in this endeavor too. Okay, it was found out that when the many people that hung out with hung out with Neal Cassady found out that he could tell stories amazingly well whenever he told the stories just while things are going on around him. So people will always be talking about how things seem so in tune. Well, in examining what's part of it is, and part of that is he was adjusting everything to all the things going on around him. It wasn't coincidence, it wasn't chance, it wasn't God necessarily. And I mean, sometimes maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but the thing is, it's part of his nature that he was adjusting to it. And the proof we're going to hear in this, we're going to, these are called the drive tapes, because they Ken tried to record him talking while he drove the bus. In fact, somewhere here I've got a CD of that, and it's pretty good. It's the best they could do with it, but it's not a professional sounding recording because it was just, not the best mics, and the bus was loud, and he's, if you were there, Ken said that if you're there, that was the only way to experience it. But what he did recreate there in Oregon in 1965, I believe it was September 13th of 1965, he set up an actual recording studio, basically. Now, he was inside of the house most of the time mixing music, but he had a microphone that he could talk to Neal in the car. He rigged up a car with a microphone and everything because he figured, hey, that'd be the best way to have Neal do it, because he was always doing it behind the wheel. But now this car is not actually running, so it's quiet, and it's got good microphone sound there. And so Ken, well, we could just jump right into listening to the recordings here. Let's see if we can get this going on here. Yeah, we're going to start with drive 2, which is, I'm not sure if these were labeled in order of the way they were recorded, but when I first got the first drive tape, the first drive CD, I got 2 first. I was looking, I think I traded a guy for a Grateful Dead something or another, and he didn't have what he thought he was going to have, and he's like, well, I got something that Ken Cassady made, and I'll let you check that out. Now, when I say Ken was making it, these are CDs that he just made off of his PC, just like a lot of people were doing them, and written on with markers in his handwriting. So that's the way it was. I got it. Was straight from that, and I got other things on down the line that over the time, because I've moved so many times, I've lost some precious things. So somebody out there's got some precious things like the bus footage signed by Ken Cassady and Ken Babs that I was even on a pre-order for that. So when they first sent them out, and they did every case individually, like that cases were tie-dyed, that they dipped each one into, kind of like you would an Easter egg or something like that. So every case it's original. And the second bus tape came out, I think September 8th of 2001. And if you ever get a chance to see that video, it's got all these, it's in New York City, right? And it's got this tick, 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 like something big's going to happen. And I said to Kate, I said to her, there's a message in that. I don't even know what it is. Well, it had a plane or a spaceship or something crashes into the Unisphere there in New York City. And the footage that they got that from was at Will Smith maybe Independence Day. But that was, the bus tape was, the bus trip was in 65, I believe. And so it was kind of a stretch for him to throw in that footage there. But then 3 days later, 9/11 happens with a plane crashing into the World Trade Center. Now, Ken passed away in November of that year, but I was following, he had a website called intrepidtrips.com. It was him and Ken Babs had that website together. And on intrepidtrips.com, Ken was, you're getting his daily life right there on his farm. It's not like he was big. He was big because his success, the system of success that looks for young people and always looking for new stars, because that's what they assume people are hungry for, and a lot of people are looking for something new, but it's really not set up for people to be a star their whole life. You notice that you think of somebody like Bob Dylan, a star of all the time, his whole life, but if you read his biography, he's got these periods of incredible fame, and then other periods where he's struggling to sell tickets and stuff like that. He's not, and it's weird because you think that, but that's just the way it works. So Ken Cassady, towards the end of his life, wasn't like what you would necessarily expect a guy who had made a movie that had 5 Academy Awards when he was young. But see, a lot of people attributed that because then after all that happened, he had these arrests and stuff. And so here was this promising student that, and this is in the 60s, that like when the label of a dope head and stuff like that, I don't know exactly what they called people that did drugs, that was pretty, it wasn't necessarily distinguished that he wasn't like necessarily a drug abuser as he was experimenting with stuff. So to professors and the people that gave him those high-ranking compliments and stuff like that, he was throwing his life away. And he kind of, I don't know how he felt about it ultimately. He definitely wrote about some things that he wished were bigger successes than they were. He felt that, maybe the hippies and the beatniks and everything didn't accomplish as much as they should have and weren't. And, that's probably the attitude people should have, because people should always be trying to aspire to more. So, that being said, let's jump into this, because
we'll go into that some other time.
See if we can get this up on.
That's why I always like in the parking lot those backward doors. Yes.
You want to get this on Bluetooth for sure.
They changed over, the line. Ford body.
Power on. Bluetooth.
Here we go. Come on.
Bluetooth connected.
Here it goes. Here it goes. Hear that good crisp sound quality.
Contemporary age sort of thing. And
No.
Lenny Bruce is 39 as well, I guess.
Talk about something else here. We can talk over this because there's a lot of recording here. And the thing is that a lot of people, even comparing Neal to the other beatniks, they were very political. And in part of those politics, they, stayed socially relevant. So you talk about Allen Ginsberg and William Burroughs and stuff like that, because they were, if you talk about those time periods in the revolution that was going on, they seemed to be a part of it. Well, Neal, a lot of people that even thought that he was a great mind when he was young. They thought towards the end of his life he kind of lost it. He was just being funny or silly and stuff like that. But what I'm going to present to you is he was actually very experimental and was developing something, and it really turned into something. Now we'll listen to this a little bit. Keep in mind, Ken's mixing the music and Neal's going with it.
Not more than, say, what? 1 block away, yeah. Set up job. The owner of the favorite name to do so. Now hiding.
You might see up here on the screen where it says rap. Well, that's because that's what they called what Neal would go to coffee shops and get up on stage and do his thing. It was a rap because he didn't have anything. He didn't write a poem out. Some of the stuff he said might rhyme, but he was making it up on the spot, and they called it a rap. That's what.
Long line, spinning it out. High speed climb. 14,201? No. 14,069. Something wrong with that line. The actual course is 13,611, as I recall.
And one thing you'll find out about Neal, and anything you read or listen to, he's all uses numbers. Some people say he used it just as a trick when he didn't have anything actually in mind. He just spout out numbers just to fill the space. But he still was always saying different numbers. So it's still, where he's getting these numbers from is still interesting.
Without making a straight line. So going wrong this curve, set up for that.
These are called the drive tapes, because essentially he talks about driving the whole time. And he's in a car, so pretending to drive.
That's what it was. 38th and Galapagos underpass. That truck came through there. And I heard this screaming. You know what it was. 10-8, and he was 11 foot tall. So, drop my garden hose, high gallon can. Last time ever, so I didn't cast until I was somewhere up in the country, as I recall sliding down there. That's fun later on.
So you see how he keeps with music. Now we're going to skip farther in this to give you an example, because this was one set of music. Hear him talk to some along with some different music, and you'll see how different it is. Because Ken tries lots of different music with him, because that's what he found out. This is how it's an experiment. Usually it was just a radio station that someone was dealing with in a car while he was driving, and it always seemed like what he was doing fit with the radio. Well, you being able to actually get the good recordings, come to find out that it wasn't their imagination. Listen to this voice, totally different, manner of speech.
Especially the wind out there. I think of the eyes like a doll opening and close. Mama.
So
the blackberry bittersweet Larry from Okefenokee came across the clue. It followed through, became the worst of the poetry of Shelley. I didn't say Shelley, too bad. I mean, too glad, contemporary and all within a generation. So they decided then there to name the fountain after old Lady Lou. Or was it Beer Barrel Nellie? What a belly, I know it was a result of Farragut. Oh dear, what a stroke. I don't know, Mr. Elgard, if your pomp and circumstance could ever quite come. Dear readers, roll up your pants. They seem to be waiting for, yes, the sunrise from Montebello. No, another fellow.
Just got some different music in there.
We must prevent that crime. Oh, hurry up, we'll get there in the nick of time. We will never get her be there. We don't got her kerosene there. We're gonna be way tonight. No, I don't know. Yes, I think so too. It's a coach. No, it's a moat. Once more the hordes invaded the western coast. But I would say it could. It would.
Now you got to keep in mind, because he lacks subject matter with these talks. Normally when he was talking, he was because he had something to say, and he just fit it in with what was going on around him. Where here he's got to pretend to have something to say, and he doesn't have really people there. Usually you get your subject matter based on what the people you're talking to are interested in. So, see how smooth that was? It's like almost a head. Sometimes it is a head. There was at least one example where it's like, how did he know that change was going to be there? But and that's what they said was like magic about him. It's like Bob Weir described that he's always in the right place at the right time. And it's like, but when he's in the spot before what's around him gets there, it's like, wow, now how does it?
Unless there is another say another stage. What? No. Get in. Pull and dress up. Get there. No. Look out. Guadalupe. No. Who is this? Barbarossa. No. Henry Christopher. No.
And when you got to pull words out of nowhere, that's when sometimes you come up with really amazing things. You can cause a snap in the time-space continuum, I suggest, because these things have spoken to me how many years after all this, and even now it's like some of these things I'm listening to them now and it's got new meanings I never met before. going. So since he's going on this one, we're going to skip back because that was just an example of what he's doing with the different music. Now, what we were listening to at first, that was something that they found out with playing different music. They found something that he really liked to talk with, and because not all of the music did he like to do that. There was a specific track they use. It's rock and roll that that he's going with.
Yeah.
Where were we? Try to get back about where we started.
The rocks let in with the legs, the feet. Like shooting the rapids. Unless, like a flat, or suspension change, or too much gas even, essentially. That's what it was. 38th and Galapagos underpass. That truck came through. And I heard this scraping. You know what it was.
Yeah, it's about where we left off.
He was 11 foot. Don't mind you.
Now, I'm asking a lot of the viewers and listeners of this because you got to have sort of a scientific approach to your listening to tolerate this, because it's not entertainment unless you are interested in what we're trying to discover here.
First, cold slide down there on that stuff. Fun later on.
And the music just starts over. It's interesting that it's called a track. You know, music, we call music tracks because with these being the drive tapes, you get the thought of a car runs around on a track. Well, if you know where the curves are, then you know where to curve your speech. And that's why he fell in with this one. They played it enough times that
Too dumb to know. Cars. 13. That's what it is today now, the reverse of 31. September, because you're going to be right back.
managed to, I said earlier, September 13th. I got that from that right there.
I like it just like it.
I'm assuming he was talking about what the date, he said it was 13th, and then he drops into September right there, just in time.
Right.
Before,
Too loud.
that's Ken talking here.
I still like that, but no, you've gone too far down.
It's really interesting here.
Perfect. A little more treble and I want to use more control.
I'm going to pause this for a second right there because I really like that, because it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of this. He wasn't in a position of power. He was the older guy, and he was the guy who really had the knowledge and the experience to pass on. He was the guy who was friends with Ginsberg and Kerouac, and they wrote about him and all that stuff. And, you know, he was the hero of the Beat generation. And that was something that was commonly said back in the 90s when I was first learning about all this stuff. Neal's name was mentioned as the hero of all those guys, But now, because he wasn't a literary success and he didn't have a college education, they're kind of dropping him off. And what case I'm trying to make here is that he should be considered avant-garde, just because he lacks the diploma and everything. In his development of what he does, he proves that he was advanced. Now I'm saying that because so far, I don't know if you we'll get back to this conversation here because I like that where he said, I want more control. He said it like he wasn't talking to anybody, but like almost like hypnosis words would sink into Kesey's head, like, let me control this, because this is his chance, because he didn't get movie crews following him. He didn't have like the big development, the interest in him. There was interest in him, like from Kerouac and people that wrote about him, but that actually caused him a lot of problems because, see, when they made a hero out of him, when On the Road made a hero out of Neal Cassady, well, then that made the authorities be like, we can't, what's this going to do to the young people if they make that out of a hero? Because and even I kind of had to reconsider all this stuff, like thinking back, because he was he stole a lot of cars when he was a young man. Because I'm like, what crime? See, he did 2 years in prison for a marijuana possession charge. He basically gave a couple joints to an undercover cop, and did 2 years in prison for that after On the Road came out. And I felt like that was retribution for I'm like, what crime did he really commit? And then I thought, oh well, he did steal 500 cars. Okay, so I can see where if your intelligence of your nations got to get involved at that point and be like, well, if we make a hero out of this guy, what's that going to cause the young people to do? So it's like, also part of his life, if you learn about him, he spent 2 years in prison. There's all kinds of hard things in his life. You don't have to search for the failures in Neal Cassady's life. They're obvious, they're up front, but it's the success that's more secret than it should be because it's big enough. Now let's get back to this.
There we go. Yeah, touch that little boy in front of you.
Yeah, that whistle was bad. It was being touched. That's right, it was. The whistle was.
Oh, we'll change your mics a little later.
Yeah, well, that's not bad. It's nice and clear. Mm-hmm.
It's Ken's equipment, obviously, because he was successful after this book was out and everything. He made some money. He invested it in this stuff so they could play with stuff. It sounds like they're just playing, but they're actually it's scientific. It's experimentation. Science applied to art.
Out there on the gas and all. To me, it looked red, and they'd go by and they'd hit second gear. Fairly transmission. Nash Lafayette, as I recall. First mistaken gesture of stolen leash.
So he's got all the pauses down now. He's got the track memorized like you would if you're racing.
And he said the grass red, you're nuts. I was so mad at that grass, I learned cars. Now that's a 34, 27. That's what it was. First car I ever owned. First car. 27 Buick it was. Had the downdraft carburetor. You know what I mean? If you ever run out of gas, all we can do is turn it up and shake it by the ass. That's right. I ran into the school teacher too. Drove with a pair of pliers. Why that old Buick? In fact, by that time, I had to get the stamp, the certificate. So I think I was only 15. Hitchhiked into that's right, Kansas and stole a pair of plates. Hitchhiking back, hot day and all, the sheriff broke him down. Said, what you got under your vest there, boy? And I said, well, that's just my chest there. The vest and the chest weren't right. No, 8 days.
8 days in jail.
Buick's gone. My first left to come into the principal's car. That's what it was. That's right. I learned to drive. Don't drive the reminds me later on the Model A. Didn't have brake one on it, no. You know what I did? Over the floorboard, I nailed a pedal on it. I used to hit curbs like when I was on my first job with bicycles, bouncing off because it was a single, no brakes on it. I'd hit cars, bounce between them, throw my feet out, just like you throw out the feet to guys you step on the rocks. And man, I tell you, sliding right through, real straight. The Model A. Well, I always had to stop going into something, but now small curbs, man. I found out that you could throw into reverse anything under 10 miles an hour. Yeah. That transmission doesn't like the Essex. Well, 27 Buick, just like Essex. Straight 60 miles. I lived on the streets in LA, right there on Wilshire. Same place like I go today, almost by 7:30. Up at 2561, something like that. 2532, auditorium there, at Universal Gardens. You drive better in there. That'll be taking the line off the hemisphere. The Unisphere, New York back there. You know who actually designed that? That's true. Same guy said it, I'd say. And I don't give the other one, but you know his first name too. That's who it was. The pattern. World's Fair, 65. Moses.
See how I dropped that all in there real nice? And that kind of ties in because the Unisphere is what that thing crashed into at the video.
73 today, I suppose.
So, right before 9/11. And so,
Later on today. Now you come over here, Mr. Q. I see.
see, it's got to be considered a music piece because he is
Going up that ground.
in with the music. Nobody ever done what he's doing as a, yet. Okay?
That's the first time I ever bought a gross company. I was so excited. I mean, actually, you know what it was? The other fella bet me $10. It was a man. You're out of your mind. Yep. I swear, just like she was born, she ran. Well, at least that isn't how it began. But husband was a little Filipino. She's big, tall, natural blonde, kind of redhead, you know, kind of that sparkling, like sort of like you might take a man Sheridan, a little too dark, but a little lighter on. Like actually, the falseness would be that he was as a red hair, that sort of a sheen. Boom, nice and clean. Dum, dum, dum. But anyways, almost anything's better than being judged by Roy Bean.
He got the rhyme. He's rhyming.
Lang tree, you know, you can hang many trees. But right now, you're hanging on this one with me. Climb that tree faster than you can skin the cat. Oh, well, now, wait a minute. Now, something else, but I didn't want to say it quite that way. But when you got a cat skin and name disaster, Missy Lou don't know just quite what to do. Now, the DA.
So when people compare him to Ginsburg and other people and find him lacking, I think they're overlooking all this. And they're overlooking that he brought music into it. Because that was what developed out of the Beatnik generation. The literary stuff all turned into music. He's the one that did it. He's the one that took it to Kesey. He's the one that took it to the Grateful Dead. And that's really what he was famous for, to carry both generations. Now it's also important to note, when he wrote about his generation, he called it the hip generation. Now, Kerouac was the one that came up with the beats. He called it the beat generation. And now by beat, he meant like, you know, downtrodden people. They were looked down on by society and they were like poor when they were living their bohemian lifestyle. So they looked like they were beat. Well, Neal came up poor, so, you know, he didn't graduate Columbia University like Kerouac did, so he felt like a success to be in the exact same situation that they felt beat in. So he called it, he said, no, we're in tune with what's going on. We're the hip generation. I just find that good. I think it goes to show how ahead of his time he was, because the next generation was called the hippies, which is what he called his generation. So you see, he was talking, history notes it as the next generation, but his generation in his mind was the hippies, you know, the hip generation. I think it's interesting, the sounds there, because this all tapes. They didn't have CDs, no digital stuff, but all analog. To be able to loop stuff, you actually have to loop the tape. You have to switch reels and put it back on there all over again. You can't do it nice and smooth like you can now, which enabled all modern looping to be done like it is without the lag.
No, wind and blue, dismayed, well, now we can do that side curtain too. Wind all the time. You couldn't tell anything, but you can tell what's before, behind. Actually, I'll be confessed, I'll grind. They're going down again. Hardly even mattered what was behind. horse himself without only with low and high. You know how that second gear means? I'll tell you. 27 Essex, no transmission, nothing there. On LA. That's what I say. On LA Street one day. Same time I had 37 Dodge. During the war, I was about 43, I'd say. I sold it because the tires. Now that sort of thing one wasn't going to do a headline risk across a bridge planned for two, like whether whoever's at it, Cincinnati, Serenities, or other than. But the roadblocks, now that's something else. I'm going the wrong side of the bridge later. And it's causing issues, I mean, really waving. In fact, first thing I did was going toward Colorado Springs, Pikes Peak, same rail. I hardly know, of course, that, I mean, who's to say on the first stop sign I went half block through? I mean, further. Too far. But I didn't go too far, I went too fast with it. You know what happened right there? That's true. Right front wheel came off. Well, what are you going to do? At that point, all you can do is blast. So you see right then, it don't matter much whether you're doing this, choosing this side of the curve or that side of the curve. You got to go on the other side of that railing, or else, now, I mean, tell you the truth, smash that, blast the smashers.
That's some storytelling.
Well, after a curlicue or two around in the orchard there, you know, that was the second post, the bastion and all to be missed, but the cloud of dust, I'm telling you, it reached more than a quarter mile. But actually, I felt more sheepish, you know, my face was red, talking about crimson. I never did approve of it. Ferrari red, especially. But now I've been modified into the flaming orange there, because I see there's nothing much there. It's a natural condition anyway. Unless you go on the wrong side of the railing of the bridge, either when the wrong time comes, or at least in that day. Whatever's in the way is going to join you. They ain't fighting against you. Remember that, son. All they can do is make you look sheepish, unless, of course, you feel a little something else kind of creepish, and I don't mean like they say on the railroad, but if you got one, I always tell why they're feeling the belly. Unlimited job. Brethren, and I knows how to.
He's not wasting any time with silence. He's like, he knows this is his point to be heard, so he keeps it going, even when the music's not there yet.
Speed drivers out there, I say. Ain't even anybody but them men like Mexicans. They're all heart and cockles, boys. But it's a result of the thinking, not being afraid, why no spade, or even economic. I don't know what I mean to say, but there ain't many suicides out of those boys anyway. That's why.
Some friends I gave this to back in, when I first got it, they played it at some dead shows, and they said it's kind of offensive, and even in that, this is in the 90s, it was still like the way people talk, the slang they used and stuff like that. It's not appropriate now, but it's what people used back then.
Just about the right way. Brethren, we gathered here today, Patterson Pow, with the pilot, 42 it was, I say. It wasn't 43 at all. I had 7 pairs of shoes, and I can still recall. No tires. But them shoes. Brethren, today, the music will take over most of the way. And
Changing the times.
that's the now, for the first time, I'll start listening to it. I'm going to tell you something about them Arabian slave traders anyway.
No, you don't want him to get political, because that's where he's going to be
Say, Yemen,
canceled.
all that mess. And I don't mean just folk. And white or otherwise. Like Latin and corn liquor, all right. So, what we need is more of that Tennessee Jack Daniels. Something that, first time I've been seduced by it, I tell you. Or is it E? My first jealousy, 15 anyway. He them get packaged upside down like camels. Man, it would even impress me. But I didn't know why. I never think that way, you see. The first time I noticed, well, I tell you, my first wife, they were out for another night or two. You know, by coincidence, we happened to choose the same cabin that night's what it was. Now I recall. Something like that, but anyway, it doesn't quite that way. But that's true. She had to sort of determine court, you know, make an appearance or so, and the parents came along and they didn't know, and I didn't think that they did. Your eyes were for no big saying, I'm in love with you, honey. Honey, come on. Now, how can you have a sign like money all piled up? Anything with the right color to it. It ain't money color that white and good. Because green is healing, you see, and it cuts that red orange, and your flaming orange is the same as the hair. Who did greet you there?
I believe that concludes that section. There's one more here that I think might have the part in it, a part in it that I think is really crucial to this. Let's see, and like I say, it's got, because this is the analyzing experimental data. This is a long form broadcast. We can't really skip the stuff. So. I like how he's a little disagreement with Ken there. He says, don't want to. He's calling him the captain, but.
Donna will give me that wing lighter then.
Now they gave him a girlfriend to sit there with him while he told stories, because they figured that would help him out, because so much of his famous talks and stuff was while he had his arm around a girl driving with other people in the car listening to the stories and stuff like that. So. There's a story that Phil Lesh tells in, I think his books was Searching for the Sound, but they're stuck in San Francisco traffic, not moving. Nobody was going anywhere. And here comes Cassady blowing by everybody with like 50 miles an hour, able to find ways through all this traffic, because they heard like all these horns honking, commenting like, what's happening? What's coming through here? There's an ambulance? What in here? It's Cassady with his arm around a girl, driving, talking, music blasting, and just flying through it all like it wasn't a traffic problem. And he's like, man, only Neal. I'm hearing stuff cut in I've never really heard before, because I've always had the headphones and stuff.
Everything. This ain't no free thing. We traded this thing yet. Alright, here we go. Can you hear? Can you hear? You can't hear, can you? You can't hear it, can you? A little bit, but see, I've got to go into complete isolation. Hold my gear. As you're gifted there. See what happens. If you can't hear, I'll go in there where you can hear.
He's got the headphones on. See, I think I got a picture. I should have the picture up here, because it's kind of important.
Goodbye. Right. So come out this side, will you? So there's no touch of no chance of making a fire.
So he's talking to the girl. She can't hear all the stuff he's hearing, and he feels that's not going to work with them trying to tell a story she can't hear. So he's telling her to go inside the house where she can hear the music and hear him talking, because he actually wants to impress her rather than have his arm around her type deal.
Mm-hmm. Well, there goes another piece of stone. Well, good enough for 1936 in an hour. Well, hurry up, Charlie. We'll never get out of this shower. Eiffel Tower.
He sent her in with. He doesn't have a girl there now because he sent her in to listen to it.
The first four-cylinder automobile banged around the Arc de Triomphe.
See, he knew the music was going to be different.
Yes, in 1996.
1996.
Ed Edison had his kaleidoscope in 93. Now, that's when my father was born.
I meant 18.
93, mother 90. As early as 1867, they put a motor in the wheelbarrow, a little contraption sort of went putt-putt like a steam engine of water. That's true. Why, they didn't even understand magneto, too. That's why they had to crank. The battery was the great invention. In fact, 22.
I should get some actually subject matter in this.
They had the self-starter at 11.
He knows the full history of cars. Of course, car history wasn't as long then as it is now.
It had even in 27. Just like after the war, they kept the old, we used to call them those springs, the elliptic leaves and all that. Terrible stuff. 48, imagine, with the rear springs, just the same as the buggy, a 98. Charlie Klondike.
There he goes, man.
And Klondike cake. In fact, it was, that's true, but it's service, face on the floor. Same year my dad was born, 93. Well, there wasn't all that gold up there, you see. Now, one of those dance halls, I think it was 96, 98, that's it, anyhow. Robert Stroud, lovely boy, lived in a wedding. You know that old him? Klondike Kid, you know what I did to him. Well now, this boy also, and I don't even have a clue, come in with a fresh load and all too, but that's the idea of it. Yeah. You know he did? Why now, I ain't saying who it was, but why, not the balloon that they used to put out in the state, but it was an Eskimo guy. Somewhere along the Indian. But on the other hand, perhaps not, just what I suggest, because the strap of the building. And then that man, Owen. Oh yes, Owen was when he came out, 16 it was. That's right. You know, sometimes double-A grade. He was bullied into it. Yep. Both in 08 and 60. Yep. Lived right down there in Leavenworth Prison. I was there in Hutchinson, Kansas myself, in the salt mine. You know what he did? That's right. In the dining room. The last time I warned you, it's true. Killed a prison guard, he did too. Terrible. And that's the last thing he did. Twice. Yeah, look at Leopold and Bed. That kind of ice. He did that at least provocation. Not like a deliberate first degree premeditated elation. No. Except sometimes. Same as Harry Nixon. That's right.
One thing we can conclude from this, if nothing else, is that he is a music personality because this is a music performance. And what kind of music would you call it? Well, they called what he was doing even without the music rap. Now the music they're mixing for him is way different than they mixed for any other rap performer. But the way he's responding to it, and the rhyming, and in the beat with it, it's not only is it rap, but the fact that it's all improvised. He was not only the first rapper, he was the first freestyler. Everything, I mean, it's not only the origins of the music, even if you doubt that, it's the origins of the freaking word. So that's why, that's what this is. That's,
Remember that first when you listen to it, it goes like this. You start off, and when the car starts, you will bring out music again.
that's what's so important right there. This is the part that we had to get to because he has an idea for what he's wanting to do then, right there. Now, Ken is in charge. It's Ken's stuff. If it wasn't for everything Ken's doing for Neal at this point in his life, he just would have been like, you know, had failed marriage and all this other stuff. Ken saw the value in him, but Ken was still in charge. But Neal had kind of deserved his place in the time. So he had an idea of what he wanted to do with the music already there, and they weren't quite doing it exactly the way he wanted. Now let's listen to that again, what he says here, because it's very important.
I know what I'd like to try. You know what I'd like to try? Something where I try to catch every beat. Now I haven't even thought of it, but I'll try to stop and say something in between every pause. Okay? Let's try that.
So if you doubt that he's trying to rap, he's telling you he's trying to do it with the beat. And now Ken's telling, no, why don't you just tell these stories? You know? Well, I'm not putting what Ken did down because Ken's the one that passed this on. He did everything, but you know, he wasn't. It was the case where he had no peers at this point. He was ahead of everybody by a whole generation. This is Neal Cassady. That's why he's got to be remembered. He's avant-garde. He was the head of the beat generation. And he's the one that passed the torch on to the next generation. He can't be forgotten. It's too important to know.
A guy sitting beside you there, a writer.
Let's make myself clear in the gist anyway.
So that you will be talking about driving while you are driving. Talk to Charlie. Yeah, talk to Charlie. We got a lot of Charlie on that.
And we're going to, that's the part of that I wanted you to hear. Now, mind you, I got this CD first. The other one is labeled 1, but I actually believe that this other one is, I think they're out of order because Ken put these together decades later. I think that this one is actually the later recording because in this one, he's got the beat down really good. You'll see what I'm talking about. This is net up. I'll get it here. I think I got to go back out. Yeah, it's in a different. Where is it here? Right here it is. Some of my stuff got mislabeled too. It very easily happens. When you got a lot of stuff, you don't know what's going to turn out to be important.
Extra hard tire. Well, I did 184 anyhow. Calmer too than she be. Who? She be. The Queen of She be. Queen of She be and David were, that's who. Now, on account of David, why, when on account of David, we got Solomon. Then after this Solomon, of course, then you got all them 4 wives. I knows one. In fact, she lives in San Jose, I guess it was. That the yellow red hair. Yeah, that red hair. Would you? And that cream, that complexion there, ooh, say, which kid is I in anyhow? Where is I with that red hair?
So he's got the beats down real good now. He really knows the course. He knows the track.
Or was it? Shut your mouth. No. How can you play that? 70 and twin axle. Sure. Why that? I tell you, I remember Pt1 was that time when and then she said, of course, I had number 931 of his wives. I realized how far ahead of me that cat was. You think Solomon's wives was. Yeah, I tell you, that day Solomon ain't gonna get my chariot never again, knows he?
He's mixing up. He's combining car history with the present that's going on and the biblical text of King David and his son Solomon all together. They're all at once, and inventing rap at the same time.
Oh. Give me. Just give me. Just give me. I get.
But the important thing, what keeps him important, is he was fun. He made it fun. Like sometimes talking about politics and stuff like that isn't fun,
Yeah, give me that. Here.
and talking the Bible isn't necessarily fun, and all stuff. But Neal put fun first, and then everything else fell in with it, and he was able to pass on a little bit of that knowledge too.
God bless y'all, little child.
And then when he doesn't have something to say, he contributes to the music, or at least shows he makes an effort to be part of the music. That's why the Grateful Dead were his child. As Jerry Garcia said, there, without Neal Cassady, there would have been no Grateful Dead. So it took it straight from the literary into the music form. It's interesting now it's come back to, I think the most important stuff going on as far as the movement now is the podcasting generation that's going on now. And so it's back to a spoken word. And I heard Schultz say just today, Andrew Schultz, say that he feels like music's coming into the comedy scene. So, you know, he's seeing another change happen where I've been in music stuff for so long with the Grateful Dead that I've noticed them as the new thing going on, but it's just things joining up. It's not like somebody, I don't think it's like effort, anybody, oh, we got to switch over to this and take over this. I mean, there might be some people thinking that. I'm not discounting what Schultz sees either. I'm just maybe seeing it from my own perspective and not seeing what he's talking about exactly.
What's that? You go between them, say my side. Which when the rear axle you can lead that thing in.
Made it easy for Ken to name these the drive tapes because he likes to throw the word himself in there from time to time. Drive.
Nice feeling that traction again behind. Got plenty of time. Well, all right, I don't want no more of them roadies. No more of them roadies. And spin out them. It's all right, the little high curve, but no more. No more.
Now I will, not to give a spoiler, but I'm going to tell you, on this is the last recording that we've got to listen to here, and because in this one you're going to hear it in its peaks. It's when you got what he's everything, the beat and the subject matter all coming in together at once. That's when it hits the real high points.
Especially if you know she's going to, then he's going to especially. So that's why Best ways when you don't know is the best ways.
I should have. He's telling me I shouldn't have told you. I know it's crazy for me to be thinking that, but I'm listening to what's going on, and you got to listen to what's going on around you as if it is in the present, even if it's past recording.
To another. And, well, this isn't quite the way it was.
Or otherwise, you don't know to react to it. You're not considering it. You got to, if you believe it, if you conducting your experiment with the postulate that there is a connection, then you have to acknowledge the connections and go with them to find out for sure. So that's what I'm suggesting, a postulate that even what I'm saying and talking about right now can tie into this, even though it's a sealed off recording. It shouldn't be able to change, but it has, because I got an email notification that was thrown in with that too, which was music that wasn't there before. So even though I can't intend for it to change, there's ways for things to happen in there.
Mess, little did they know that that Laurie was quite a surprise. In fact, not only Laurie either, but Laurie recall-wise. You know, the Madison Ease is hardly what we please.
Or if you want to make a political statement, Madison Ease, I'm assuming that's Madison Avenue in New York, which is a wealthy area, rich people. He's fine with being poor because that's where raw life was happening.
Four, that's it. There they are. You can hear all four of them now. Four. Say he's getting up. Oh my God, that thing. I didn't even know what to run.
It's 4:44 right now. Okay.
You better.
4:44 a.m. when he said those fours. I'm saying that's, so we're going with the postulate. This is all predestined to happen now. And it's live. Going out live. It better be going out live. Because I've got no viewers. You've got to be at least a moderator. Come on, moderator.
In fact, I was going to get on out of here. Just excuse my fourth gear.
Never use it anymore. That's just, of course,
I wish I could hear a little bit of that hoon right here.
Of course, destiny can't come about without your help. But if you believe in destiny, then it gives you the energy and the assertiveness to put it in there, and that's how you get it. That's how you make destiny be what you want it to be. But if you don't believe it, you can't pretend to believe it. But if you do believe it, then you can go with it until you've got other reason to believe otherwise. But you don't get to be my age if you're wrong the whole time. And if you still believe it, you know, unless you're insane. That's always a possibility too, I suppose, but let's just check the evidence here. Let's go along. See what.
Now, of course, with a good driving, it's like going a rail. It's like better than the railroad. Even I ain't got no breaky, or shady breaky lady. Oh.
You should be talking about himself. Hard to tell how long he's been recording this at this point.
Made that up fine. Yeah, it's dripping right through the core. Oh, leading the fleet. Move on over it. Home not home now. Woo! Yeah, you fell up there. Little pressure on. Say, what's that? Oh, that. Watch out there. That shady lady there. That she's a breaking you down. Break it down. How's the shady lady ever get my brake fixed up like this anyway? I ain't gonna break no more shady lady. No more breaking.
This goes back to what I said at the beginning. He's very sensitive to what's going on around him. A lot of people wouldn't be able to find all these beats and stuff because you got to be affected by your surroundings to
That lady was
react to them, and so. And with that, and if you're sensitive to them and you don't react to them, then there will be a distraction. So being sensitive can mess things up for you, or it can be your connection into things. And Neal goes to show how being sensitive can be a strength. Usually sensitives be like, well, if you're sensitive, you're sheepish, like you said earlier. Well, you can't let it make you be sheepish. You've got to react to it and not see all these things as an obstacle, as a detraction. They're not fighting against you, son. They're going to join you, is what he's saying. That's what he's making everything joining by going along with knowing it's there and knowing it could be a distraction, but it's actually going to improve what he's doing because he's going to tie it all in together.
In fact, she had more than that. She had that's the one I say that
Of course, I like all this reading out the time, especially when I got this. My wife was Kate, so he talks about the one girl he mentions in several different stories, and this one, whether it's a make-believe character or in the stories that actually tell him, there's Kates, lots of Kates.
I think that's the one they say that's the man of heaven. That's the best kind. Shady lady, Katie, jelly lady. Oh, she come from Haiti. It was to her I made it, I made it. Bob, you know, listen. Bob. Well, I read that right when she got me in that fun tunnel. I said, "What kitty?"
Fee, fi, fo, rum, some bum. You got me on that one, Neal. Of course, that one I knew was coming because he got me a long time ago. He just called me a bum.
Okay, you is the best. Why only chickens do that? They know they set. That's what they do. They set. They lay. What I'm kidding now. That's it. Hail Waffa. Yes, a little red wing, and her mother there. That the hair and the only he mother.
He's making out with a girl while he's doing all this at this point now. So, anyhow, that's what I'm suggesting with this evidence. You can take it back and listen to it more or not, but what I'm suggesting here is that this is evidence that he invented rap, freestyling, and so much more, because we got the time-space continuum that he seems to be able to affect, and that's even bigger. And on that note,
But then he went east, of course.
episode
Very strong. Very strong.
1, season 2, in the bag, and I hope to go somewhere.
I think he's overcome by the idea of a four-banger as opposed to a six.
Colorado.
Sixes.
We can keep on for hours and hours.
You'll
We
be
can.
covered soon enough. The man will have an idea, and that was the only designing mistake of his life. His mother.